Hi, welcome back to another edition of Hobby Think Tank. That's John Keating. I'm Danny Black, and I'd like to thank who are we sponsored by? Blockbuster, Woolworth, and everybody behind us tonight.
Photomat, I think.
The Photomat, the
Yeah,
one in
just
the
drop your
middle
pictures off in the parking lot, folks.
of,
And
at a spot pot.
yeah, and if you're lucky, you can get some weed there too. Your Photomat guy's also your weed dealer. I'm
So,
closer to the camera, so it appears that my head's bigger than Danny. Therefore, I'm smarter than him. So
no.
that,
I've got the late night bad hair as we record late night
yeah,
for
yeah.
what's left. I like recording with you.
Okay,
Yeah, it makes me feel better. Thank you.
okay. Well, thanks. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to record?
We are talking about where to buy vintage cards. You and I were just talking about this, and we're both vintage card lovers. But there's a little bit of a different. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is part of the conversation. I feel with vintage, there's a different buying pattern that I like versus a modern card. Am I alone on that?
Well, the expectation is when you buy modern cards that they're perfect, meaning obviously from the time they were manufactured, the manufacturing process has obviously gotten better. The care of the product once you've opened it from the pack or somebody has opened it for you has gotten better. So vintage, there's a lot more riffraff, as one would say. So it's harder to, you it's easier to buy modern than it is to buy vintage. That's all. That sums it up. Thanks. Good night, everybody. Catch you
Oh, I'm
later.
glad we solved that in record time.
Yeah.
Um, I think modern collectors are more comfortable with grading.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is sunk into the vintage collectors as well. But uh,
I
boy,
think less so. I'll say from my recent experiences, there are some. Maybe it's just the dealers I deal with, but they don't want to touch graded.
they don't want to touch graded. The dealers.
Yeah, the
What is they
vintage
don't
deal.
want to?
They
They're
don't
so
want
you're
to put
saying they're migrating towards raw, selling raw cards.
the vintage dealers. The vintage dealers.
Interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
and
Because the
maybe
natural progression of things is as people navigate their way or mature in this hobby, they start to go backwards and appreciate vintage cards, and therefore the grading, vintage cards were why the whole grading thing was started in the '90s. So that's very interesting.
these are guys who've definitely been around since before the grading process started,
Hmm.
and I think they're waiting to see if it's going to catch on. They don't seem sold yet.
After 32 years, 33
Yeah,
years, they're not sold. Wow,
but that
that's very interesting. That's I had never heard that before. That's a very interesting take.
So when I was at a show this weekend, I was looking to buy two vintage cards, and one dealer had it was a Moberg, had four of them, which was unbelievable, all graded.
Hmm.
Okay, another dealer had three, all raw, not one graded card in his entire inventory.
Wow, that's crazy. And where
Now,
was this? Would you like to name this place?
it was a
This
Pittsburgh show,
magical place? Yeah.
the Pittsburgh show.
So how
Um,
would you compare that to Strongsville?
Nothing compares to Strongsville, I'm sure, vintage.
Okay, but I mean, as far as
A lot
raw
of
versus graded.
raw this year at Strongsville.
Okay, so you're seeing a trend, as they say.
Well, I think this goes to the pattern we've seen with the problem with grading is people are just skeptical, and one of the nice things about vintage is there's I don't know, maybe a little art mixed in with the science that we enjoy.
Yeah, there seems to be though a little trouble trouble up ahead for vintage, or in the midst of it, as far as trimmed cards and all that fun stuff. I mean, that seems to be in the news lately. So, how do you think these dealers that are dealing in raw protect against the buying and then the selling? How do they answer questions from people buying from them, and how do they answer questions in their head when they're buying from someone else? How does that get settled?
Well, there's probably an assumption that somebody's asking the question, and that's an excellent point.
Okay. Grading
And
obviously was supposed to level everything out and make everything,
well, that was
card was card, but that's not happening.
so. Where do you like to go if you're buying vintage? And maybe we should break this into categories. forget we both have put together sets. Forget the dollar box common sets. We'll put that aside for now. If you want to buy a $500 card, I'll pick a number. Something.
Yeah, I like to buy that in person. I like to go to a card shop. The kids call them LCSs, so I like to go to an LCS. I have several options near me. I will go to flea markets. I will go to antique stores. A lot of antique stores near me, and I'll go to shows. Although I don't like people, and people don't like me, that's a something that occasionally I have to do is be amongst the people, and uh, buy cards. But it gets a little crazy because when you see, you see. I mean, you have the options of many different uh, versions of the card you want, no matter what condition and stuff like that. So that's great and all that stuff, but there's so much nonsense to swim through at shows sometimes. I know you're a shower. I'm not a shower. I'm a grower, and I like to grow my collection different ways than going to shows.
I wasn't sure where you were going with
Neither was I.
that. But in all seriousness, is the technology now at a place where these major online sellers have scans that are quality enough that we should feel or start feeling more comfortable buying that
we're
way?
we're you know we keep falling into the same trap where we were convinced PSA was right and whomever else is grading cards that their word was the authority, right? And then we thought BBCE was the authority. And now, no offense, I've never met the man, but uh, obviously everybody fawns over what Greg Morris does on eBay with his cards. So he's the authority and has been for a while, probably. But people overpay for his cards because they trust his whatever thing he's got going on there. I doubt he looks at every card, but they trust his opinion. So we're trusters, yet we don't trust our own eyes. We trust our ears before we trust our eyes. We trust other people's opinions, um, and stuff like that. So people will overpay for cards. I see it all the time. When I have to buy a card now, I have different. I'm a big opportunity guy, so it depends on the situation. I don't have a rule for any of this.
You don't target specific cards as often as you take the opportunity.
But I've talked about this. If you do that and you strike out, was it worth driving an hour to the show and standing amongst the unwashed? Is it worth it? Right? Oh, I didn't get that card. The either it wasn't there, or the opportunity was right. Then the day is ruined. You have to, in order to enjoy it or enjoy something, you have to be able to be flexible. So I have a list. I have a hit list that I go by, and my hit list right now isn't big bangers per se. They happen to be big bangers, but I have to finish two sets, right? I have to finish a 58 set. I have two cards left. I have to finish a 53 set. That's a little harder. But my 56 set, I have 12 cards left. So that's what I'm focused on. I can buy, a 63 Roberto Clemente anytime I want, but that's not what I'm focused on right now. So with that said, I happened to buy a 55 Roberto Clemente last week when I was looking for a 58 Ernie Banks All-Star card. So, but that's because there was an opportunity there and it was cheap. So, if you have two cards you want, you're a different kind of collector than I am. You have two cards you want, and I think at least you have two. If it was one, man, you'd be have more bad days than good days, I would imagine, right?
Well, I will tell you that the 57 set I'm putting together, and I said we're not going to talk sets and commons and
Mm-hmm.
just screw it. My wife got me for my birthday at the Pittsburgh show the check.
Checklist. Happy birthday. That's
Is it?
awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But what it showed me is that there are cards in that set that should probably be on more of a higher chase list for me to
Okay.
see in person.
Now is why is that? Is that because the cards are prestigious with Hall of Famers, or is that because certain cards speak to you?
Well, I would say a little. a little bit of all the above. Checklist, I like to see how if they're written on or not written on. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that in person is cool. Um,
That's the second year they made checklists, by the way.
oh, thank you. And
Whatever.
Roy Campanella's last card.
Mm,
No,
playing days, but yeah. I
yeah,
mean, he had one in a wheelchair, didn't he?
that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but yeah, no, there's the Frank rookie, the Brooks rookie. So I'm making those. I'm kind of reprioritizing
Right.
and saying yes. I like a Moberg 33 Gaudy, but
Mm-hmm.
Frank Robinson rookie, Brooks rookie. I can expand that list a little bit, you know, into some of those, as you said, some of the bigger cards when you set collect.
Does your LCS have anything on offer? You live in an area with that has a lot of opportunities. Have you? What would be your preferred method of procuring a 33 Gaudi Moberg or a 55 Sanford Koufax?
100% in person, and I don't have an LCS that carries vintage. Uh,
Nowhere in the DC Baltimore
it, it,
metroplex.
it would be a good hour and a half. I could probably talk to somebody and have
Mm-hmm.
them find one, but
Right.
I can do that on my.
Yeah. So that's
Well, that's why I like going to shows. I know you
yeah.
make. I knew you were talking about it, but that is one of the reasons I like going because I don't have that
Right.
LCS near me.
Yeah, I can go. Full disclosure, I can go. I bought the 58 Banks All Star and the 56 Clemente in Lameda, California last week. Right, so I have the opportunity that I can go all over the place and get stuff. So that kind of makes it interesting for me. That means I don't have to go to the same store all the time. Although, with that said, two of my LCSs that are within spitting distance of each other both have me. They both call me often and text me often to come over and look at stuff, which helps. I've seen the evolution of my local card shop when it opened up a couple of years ago go from purely modern to now he's probably at least 40% vintage, and he kind of calls me and talks to me about vintage and asks me, so I kind of get the first shot on that stuff. I just bought most of the 56 top set from him a couple weeks ago for dirt cheap because I helped him on something else. So anyway, that's the opportunity right there. I had 100 of the 56 tops, and guess what? Now I have all but 12. So you never
So
know what's going to happen.
that might answer my other question: are buying in lots a good way to buy
Always,
vintage?
always, always, always. Now, what you find here, we're gonna run into interesting times here, Daniel, and the boomers are unfortunately coming to the end of the road for for most of them, or for some of them, I should say. Boy, that sounded grim. Anyway, there's a generation that collected in the '60s and the '50s, and what you and I, well, you're different than I am, but I don't have people knocking on my door saying, "Here's a bunch of baseball cards." Right? I can go to Facebook Marketplace and see all the bat guana in the world right there, right? Which is everything from the '90s, and $1,500 for all the 1988 through '91 Don Rosses you need. But these guys that open this guy morphed from a modern uh, LCS to people walking collections in, like an E98 Ty Cobb a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago that turned out to be real. But people are walking these collections in because they don't have anywhere else to go and they don't go on Facebook. So this guy has become what he's become because people are walking the collections in. He's not actively seeking vintage cards, but they're walking through his door, which makes me very jealous because I wish that would be my door. Truth be told, because there's so many opportunities. People just want to get rid of cards, um, family members or collectors.
Do you buy lots online?
See, when you do that, I mean, online means just about anything, right? eBay, Facebook. But what I do, do is I prefer to buy lots in auctions, or if I go to auctions, like all the big auction houses, I have one that's a favorite that I won't discuss, but I like to buy big lots. I like big lots, and I cannot lie, and I'll buy them, and it's easier for me to.
Would they be happen to be close to me geographically?
So I was talking, Danny.
Sorry.
So I will, and I built a lot of my collection that way by buying big lots like that of vintage stuff. It's sure some of the stuff may come in greasy 9 pocket uh, sleeves, but there's a lot of good stuff out there because they find that stuff. Those auction houses find that stuff. So I would rather buy thousands of cards, pay $40 shipping, than buy a card for the same price and pay $40 shipping. Um, I'm a set collector though, and I like to collect all sorts of things. So that's why. Now, if you ask me to go get I don't have a Grail card. I don't believe in that world. But if you ask me to get a super banger, I don't think I'd go to an auction house to do it, just because I have a hard time with math, buyer's premiums, shipping, tax, all that stuff.
When you do sets, do you have a minimum quality? So are you forced to see the quality of a card, or do you prefer to see the quality of a card to a detail?
I will say that the it was an unequivocal no, probably as recently as a few years ago. But if given the option, I will pass on a card every now and then if I need it for a set. But I'm having a hard time right now. I'm going to lay it all out on the table. I need a 58 Roberto Clemente and a 58 Willie Mays All Star card. The All Star card's easy. Getting that Clemente in a reasonable condition that I like has been difficult. I can buy plenty of beaters, but to answer the question now, I am a little more finicky about certain things. That Clemente, for some reason, probably because it can be various colors of yellow, and uh, there seems to be a lot of bad ones out there. That's something I'm having a hard time getting uh, at a reasonable price. So I am condition sensitive for the most part.
Well, what's the hot term? Eye appeal. Everybody
Sure.
thinks eye appeal. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that the original buy the card, not the grade? I mean,
Yeah. You know what's odd? I just saw like whatever 33 Gaudy Babe Ruth and a one for a price that's a good price. There are no great prices, but I was like, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that because it was such a beater. So even though I have a T205 Christy Mathewson gold border back there, which that's an exception because to
I
me
was
that's
about
an
to say,
iconic card. Not
well,
that the Babe Ruth one isn't, but like it's got enough good looking things about it. It's like a really hot looking woman, but she chews her nails. Oh well, I'll take it. She looks good from. It's great from here,
I
and her toenails too. She oh gosh, she chews her toenails and her fingernails. But anyway, it looks great. The card.
this sounds like the Rex Ryan family reunion show.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
Mike Baker does a raw card evaluation through PWCC. The only reason I bring it up is I bought a total beater. By the way,
uh-huh.
this has been crumbled up in somebody's pocket at some point, guaranteed.
Right.
But online, it actually gave a heat map to show all the creases and
Oh,
all
I'm
the
sorry. My mind went somewhere else. Heat map.
yeah
So it showed the creases, right?
everything, all the flaws. Now this thing lit up like
That now, yeah, but could you see these at arm's length, these creases?
when I got the card in person.
What is that card again? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
It's the Mantle Barra power hitters in the 57.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Um,
One of two multiplayer cards in that set.
I love doing shows with you.
Yeah. Other
Uh,
than the team cards.
but yeah, no, it's a beater. I mean,
Right.
they were accurate, but I like knowing that when I bought it. Obviously I got it cheap,
Right.
but I like knowing that. Yeah, no, those were all creases.
Yeah.
There might have been doubt in my mind, but this was saying we're not hiding anything.
What
Yep.
do they charge for that service?
From the buyer's side, it was included
Okay.
just to help because it was online. So
Okay. And what does it say? It's telling you it what evidence have they proven to you? Have they given you? They gave you a heat map, or it says
it's a heat map and high image scans.
okay.
So I felt pretty comfortable for. I mean, I got this for under $50.
And you wanted to know it was authentic.
I wanted to know it was authentic, and I wanted to make sure that I don't trust the images always.
Right.
So was it really that creased
I
up? I mean,
got you.
you know,
And
and
where
if
did you buy this?
I want this was online at a company that was recently acquired.
Copy you.
Yeah,
FPWCC.
something like that.
Right.
I was talking. Um, so
Why would you buy from them?
see, because I knew you were going to go there. That's why I
Yeah.
didn't bring it up.
Right.
But why did I
Huh.
buy it? Because I picked this up at a price that I couldn't get, that I didn't see anywhere else.
And you had tried to find that card at shows. You tried to find that card
I know what it
elsewhere.
goes for. I
Yeah,
mean,
I got you.
one day I'm going to upgrade it. This is probably never going to make it to PSA,
I got you.
but you know what? Now I can check it off, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean that's important. Authenticity is important. Um, I think that's the biggest concern for everybody. Even the people I see grading is a scam. That seems to be the T-shirt. And I have my strong opinions on grading, but authenticity is pretty important. I was online on Facebook, and I thought that they should come up with a new grade, right? Because authenticity or authentic kind of has a stigma attached to it that it's not kind of a whole card or a real card. I think we should do the U for unaltered or something like that. That means it's authentic and it's unaltered, and it could be a 1 through a 10, whatever. That's just because some people don't want to get them graded, but they want to get them slabbed. But that A on there is like a scarlet letter. I mean, duh, right?
You brought it up earlier. Can we really trust now and say the cards are unaltered and graded?
Well, if you're going to give it a 1 through 10, then it's unaltered in theory, right?
In theory,
In
yeah.
theory. But I'm just saying, if that's something you are looking for, but you don't want you don't want a numerical grade. Maybe there's something outside of. I mean, A for authentic is supposed to mean authentic, but it also means altered, right?
Yeah, well, you're right. They don't separate it. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. So maybe unaltered. Even cards that have grades have been altered. A pinhole is an alteration.
Did you like the qualifiers better when there was qualifiers?
I don't care about qualifiers because it's just a further opinion. I think people rave about the qualifiers, but to me, I'm pushing a box, or I have a car, right? I could have the three best wheels in the world, and if I have one bad wheel, the whole box and the whole car is screwed up. I can't go anywhere, right? Same, it's the same kind of opinion people have with cards. Like, oh, it's got one little thing on it, then it doesn't. It does, but it's not the case. It's still a beautiful card. It might have a little half a point deduction for whatever reason, but I don't know.
All right, so
I don't like. I don't like. I grade my cards for authenticity, and I grade my cards for to preserve them. I don't. I want good looking cards, but you know, rarely does that. If I can get a good deal on a card that has a good grade, I'll do it. But that's not what drives me. I don't need a 5. I don't need a 6. I don't need a 4. I just need the card I want, and if I like it, I buy it. If it's got a little soft corners, I'm okay with that.
I by far am a surface picture color person.
That's everything, man.
I don't care
What are
about
we missing? So
I
no
don't care about the
corn.
back.
Okay.
I'm willing to give a lot on the back, and I know I might be a lot more lenient on that than some people.
Well, the
Uh,
grading companies in theory are as well, right?
well, I'm willing to take a lower grade that they probably dinged on the back more than most people.
So the backs of vintage cards suffered more than the fronts of vintage cards because the fronts of vintage cards you can wipe down with a chamois. The backs of vintage cards absorb. They don't have the gloss, and they absorb the wax and the gum and all that stuff. So, and 64 tops is another example of why the backs are kind of tricky because you have a coin and you could rub that off and figure out the answers back there. So maybe that's a great thing, the backs, but to me, I think it's all important, right? As long as I have a whole card, I'm happy.
If you have to give, I give. I like centering. I'm not. I'm not a. I'm not a
Uh,
beholden to it. I don't want 90-10, but I don't have to have 50-50.
some people love miscut cards. I just sold a lot of about 30 of them on eBay, a mixtape
Really,
lot, and they love like just 70s
that's like a weird.
comments.
That's like weird fetish collecting.
It is weird stuff, but I have binders back there that have a lot of OC cards in them because some of them I pulled out of packs in the 70s. Some of them that was good enough for me. If I'm standing at a table in 1978 next to a 40-year-old guy as a 10-year-old kid, I didn't understand that centering mattered, and I bought the card when the guy next to me turned the card down. So somebody was willing to sell me that card, which I thought was probably for a screaming deal because nobody else wanted it. But I'm okay with off-centered cards.
I'm just shocked that there's a off-center market out there I'm missing.
There is there's a guy on Twitter that loves them, and there's at least one person on eBay that loves them. So um, they're fun. There's some great off-center cards, right? The best one
Well,
would be the one with Mickey Mantle and Jackie Robinson, the 52 Jackie Robinson with a little whisper of Mickey Mantle.
well, I like the stories behind them, and that one has the story to go with it. That they're together on the sheet, and as opposed to
Right.
just terrible company.
Terrible. All right, real quick here.
Yeah,
So, at what point do you get desperate enough that you're going to overpay for that card on eBay or either one of those two cards? Because uh, I announced to the world a little while ago that I'm getting to that point with my 58 set.
I up until the Pittsburgh show thought that I had plenty of patience. Um, Having the cards in front of me and
Right.
being that close to them, I'm not going to make it past the national.
Okay. How many
That's
shows are you going to before the national?
a lot more than I was.
Yeah, because and the spirit of
I
this
wasn't going
conversation,
to any. I'll probably add a couple. Yeah,
right? But the spirit of this conversation was,
yeah.
where, right? You can get it at any time. You can get either one of those cards at any time. Are you going to break down and hit a button? Or are you
I'm
determined
gonna
to get it in person?
I'm gonna do what you said you don't like to do and drive an hour, look for two cards, walk
Right,
away disappointed. Um, but I'll have a blast doing it.
right.
That I'm antisocial, but if it's just me and the cards, um, I
But
can love.
what's next? Is there anything? Because you're different than I am. I have a gajillion projects going on with my collection. What's what's the hurry for you? Is there what's next? If you happen to get those two cards tomorrow, do you have a big hole in your collecting life, or because I have, like I said, many things I could be doing. You're different than I am.
You, I don't think we've said it on this episode. At one point my entire collection was stolen,
Good.
so I have pieces that I am choosing to try to fill holes.
Mhm.
Being from Baltimore, the Brooks rookie, the Franks rookie, which goes together with my 57 set, but also the Johnny Unitas, which happens to be the 57 also by coincidence. So I guess I'm buying everything from 57. I didn't realize it until now.
Right.
And then I, you know, I know I can get them anywhere. I'd like to do the run on the Ripken rookies again in high grades. Eights and nines are pretty common, but
Yeah.
you know,
I just think that like we're in such a hurry. That's why I don't use the term Grail card because people use Grail card and Grail card or the Holy Grail should be the end. That should be the top of the pyramid. But there should always be something else. Again, other opportunities. If you can't find the two cards you want, you should have many backup plans. Um, I thought my 53 set was my backup plan. It turns out that that's now plan C. So, but there'll always be something. Um, Whether I'm buying in lots or buying individual cards, there's always going to be something.
so if we're supposed to come to some sort of, I don't know, summary, or I don't know, we don't do answers, but
Yeah, you can find anything on eBay or online. We know that you can find anything on eBay. You want to see the card in hand because you don't trust the system, or you don't trust photos, two
I'm a
dimensional
skeptical
photos.
person by nature.
Right. Sure. I got you. But with that said, I think you care about conditioning more than I do. I on eBay I post high res photos of $1.59 cards from the junk wax here. It's just easier to do, and people can zoom in. But there's a lot of crappy photos.
I was about to say, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
and I don't know how the auction houses, the one that may or may not be in your uh, area, does a very good job of allowing me to zoom in and stuff like that. And I assume they're all like that. But
the online one that you don't talk about
right,
does. I will say that that's one of the strengths,
right.
um, is the imaging. And you know what? Here's for other people if you don't know. PSA, you can scan right in the cert if you're looking at a card, and verify. And if you just want authenticity, take 2 seconds and do that if you're buying anything worthwhile.
Yeah. But I bought some. I was at a card show in Madison, Bose Card Show in Madison a couple weeks back, and I bought some vintage cards. And I probably could have done better, but it was, you're kind of in the spirit. That's another thing that card shows. If you're on a diet and you gave up pizza, Chuck E. Cheese is not the place to go. And it's kind of like that. If you're, showing restraint at a card show is probably the most difficult thing to do, which is why you should always have options for sure.
Well, if the dealer would not have packed up early, I would have bought the cards in Pittsburgh.
I'm going to mention one other thing real quick here that uh, old timers like myself, I do not go to Instagram uh, or TikTok, but I do hang out on Facebook and Twitter a lot. And there is a lot of volume of vintage cards. Obviously, you know about the groups on Facebook,
That's right.
specific groups to specific years too, and types of cards. So it's you don't get the photo qualities on eBay and Twitter kind of suck because you can't zoom in on Twitter, on I'm sorry, Facebook and Twitter. You can't zoom in on Twitter and Facebook. You can zoom in a little bit, but it's not the same. So it's always best, obviously, to ask DM somebody for better photos if you're interested, because there's some crappy quality photos, but there's some great opportunities out there to buy cards. On Facebook that feels like it's not like an auction, so you don't have to pay a BP, but it feels like a nice little hybrid between card shows and auctions. So
Well,
don't
since
ever
I'm
give up
naturally
on that.
I'm naturally skeptical. What, are you a fan of the voucher system? The vouch system?
I don't care about the voucher system that much. I don't buy as much as I used to. I bought my Hank Aaron rookie on Facebook, right? And
Wow.
as you probably sweating it out for a little while. And if it came, but I also bought a 1963 Whitey Ford that never came, and for 3 months I had bought from the guy before, and I didn't need a vouch, but it's like, oh yeah, sorry man, I thought I shipped it, and then like, oh, I don't know where it is, and then finally he just gave me my money back. I mean, for $15, I was going to drive up to New Hampshire and beat the crap out of this guy, right? But that, you have to mitigate your frustration too. I do. Here's something that I will admit to the public is I do participate in vintage set breaks from a couple very reputable uh,
Okay.
gangs, and I really that's fun to do. But like anything, you have to be prepared when you buy a box of cards. You have to be prepared to end up with all the worst cards. So that's the same thing with set breaks. So I'm able to build some stuff, and I've had some great success there. I've had some great misery as well. But if you prepare yourself thinking you're going to get the worst of the worst, then you'll be fine. But that's another alternative as well. It doesn't really buy
I
into getting lots or getting the card you want for sure. It's just a fun little thing to, you know,
I just
fun.
can't believe that between the two of us, I am not comfortable online and only want to buy the cards in person and touch them, and you're buying everywhere online, south of the satellite link system.
I try. I buy. You know what? I buy everywhere but the apps. Okay, whatever the apps are, like I as freaky as I get is Facebook, Twitter, and in the auction houses. But I don't participate in the app stuff because it's probably some great opportunities there. I watch Chasing Cardboard, and guess what? I bought thousands of cards from Chasing Cardboard. So some that have built my sets, some that have taken me in the directions that I didn't expect my collecting to go. So there's you always have to be prepared to just kind of like see where it takes you. That's what collecting's all about, and that's what every pack of cards is supposed to be about. You don't open up a pack of cards knowing what you're going to get inside a packet of cards, and that's the way it's been for me since 1975. I don't know what's in there, and that's the way your collecting should be too. So hey, diversify there, Danny Black.
Well, I should. I am jealous in the conversation about your LCS. Um,
Yeah, it's fun.
that's kind of a takeaway
Yeah.
for me. That like I'm thinking that would be cool if I could go. Now there's one place I can browse vintage singles, but
Cards or ladies?
um, cards. But Morgana they keep in the back.
Okay. Hey, man, if you like
If you need
vintage
a
single
kissing
ladies,
bandit,
they
yeah.
call them spinsters. They used to call them spinsters, but whatever, man.
I think we're putting you back in the photo hut.
Yeah, but hey, yeah, build relationships, as they say, which is tough for people like me who I don't get along with anybody. But this, my LCS out of we have a relationship now that because of vintage cards. Him wanting to learn more about them and me wanting to acquire them. So it's been fun.
And I will say that you are absolutely full of it. I love getting along with you, and you. I will say off air did me a solid this week, so I will share that with everybody. And
Hey, a great poet once said, "One must put up barriers to keep oneself intact." So I don't like people. I say I don't like people, but perhaps it's just a front, right?
well, you can call it whatever you want, but you're stuck with the compliments. So deal with it.
Okay, I don't know what
How's
that
that?
means. I'll have to replay this to
I,
figure out
I,
what that
I'm
means.
I'm giving you a compliment. I'm just saying
Thank
it's
you,
yeah.
dude.
That's
You're high on ice cream right now. I don't even know who you are anymore.
um.
Good luck with the Sanford Koufax. Okay.
Well, no. In
And
all,
don't be afraid to pick up the rookie card of the winningest Jewish pitcher in history either, which you probably don't know.
I do. Uh,
Okay, you have it written down on your hand. Check your right hand.
Is it Ken Holtzman?
Ken Holtzman.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah.
No, I'm just getting old. I have to stare
Yeah.
when I think.
But they're fun little things, fun little projects. I like the where you're going with the historical stuff. Obviously, everybody wants a Sandy Koufax, but the Moberg, that's a fun one. I'm going to do a show this very soon. I was going to do it today, but you had me on in the green room for the last 36 hours. But I'm going to do a fun one.
I take back all those compliments, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to do. That's why nobody likes me because I can't take a compliment. But it's going to be a fun show about cards that you should just kind of like, not because of the player being in the Hall of Fame or being even that famous. So, yeah, it's a shameless plug. I've plugged myself, but not in a virtual way.
On that note, I'm going to go eat another mini ice cream cone.
Enjoy, man.
John, thank you.
All right, take care. Good night, everybody.
Thank
And
you. We hope you learned something. Take care.
yeah, I learned a few things.
See ya.
Bye.